This week I'll show you the basics of shooting cityscapes. A lot of people go on city breaks, so this is the ideal time to take your camera along and try and get a few shots of that city. Now, if you go along to the really popular tourist spots, your photos may look similar to everyone else's, but if you follow some or all of these tips, you can still make your photos stand out from the rest. The first thing to work out is how you want that photo to look. So what I tend to do is I'll go scouting for a location in the day. I really like the photos taken just after sunset in the blue hour, when the lights come on, or sometimes when it gets dark. Some locations work better in the day, or the weather conditions might work better in the day, but I do prefer shooting in the blue hour. Cities tend to come alive when those lights come on and when there's still some details in the sky. Cities generally have tall buildings or prominent features that really stand out. So make sure you've got a wide enough lens to fit them in, or you stand back far enough to fit them into the frame. If you don't have a wide angle lens but want a wide angle shot, click on the eye in the corner or the link in the description to another of my videos. If you're photographing the buildings as a whole, just make sure to not tip your camera too far back or too far forward, as it will distort those vertical lines. You can bring back the verticals when editing, but a lot of the time this will result in heavy cropping, and it's much better to get it right in camera. This is the main reason why tilt-shift lenses are so popular with architectural photographers. You can keep the camera level and then shift the lens up a bit, getting the top of those buildings in your frame. Now, if you're shooting directly up or you've got a very steep angle on the camera, you don't have to worry too much about this. Just have a look to see how the vertical lines are working in your frame. You may want to have all those vertical lines converging to one point, and sometimes this can be really effective. As it gets dark, watch your highlights. You'll find that the highlights in lights and shot fronts will start to blow out if you don't control your exposure properly. Putting your camera on a tripod and bracketing your shots, or underexposing and bringing it back if you have an ISO invariant camera, works really well. Also, try shooting the same location at different times of the day. It's amazing how different it will look when the ambient lighting is different. And if you have the patience, what you can do is take a shot just before sunset and one after sunset into the nighttime where the lights come on, and blend the two shots together. This can create a really compelling image. One of the trends nowadays is for cities to have light shows as a tourist attraction. So if this is happening in the city that you're in, take some shots during the light show and after the light show, so then you can see which one works better. They don't last for very long, so you've really got to be on your toes and you've really got to be ready for them. They'll be a lot brighter than the normal shot without the light show, so just make sure you control your exposure for those highlights. One really cool thing to do is to try and get up high into some of the skyscrapers. Some will have rooftop bars with really good views. Other cities might be surrounded by hills or mountains where you can find a unique viewpoint. If you have hard pinpoint lights in your cityscape shots, consider getting the camera on a tripod and closing the aperture down to around about f16. Then these lights will become starbursts. As the light drops and your exposure times become longer, think about using transport routes as leading lines into your shot. I'll normally use the boats in the local marina that are traveling underneath a bridge that I can shoot from, or I'll find some busy roads where I can use the car's headlights or brake lights. Play around with your settings and your angles to get really creative. You can make the dark areas pitch black, use a reflection or blur people completely out of the shot to make the city look empty. There are so many different options. Now, not every angle or position will work well, but the more you shoot cityscapes and the more you walk around trying to find unique locations, the better you'll get at it. I'm still learning and I'll have a shot that I might have in mind, but when I get to that location, it doesn't quite work. But what you'll find is if you develop the shot or have a walk around, you'll end up finding something that will work. And that's about it. If you live in a city or you're going on a short city break, remember to take your camera with you. If you used any of these tips and they've helped, let me know in the comments below, and let me know how you got on with your cityscape photography. As always, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. And for weekly tutorials, hints and tips in photography and videography, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you next time.